Hello everyone and welcome to the Chrissy B Show. This month is Global Youth Traffic Safety Month, and in support of this we want to highlight the importance of road safety, especially when you're a new or young driver. Helping young people to stay safe is a high priority for the UK government, and preventing death and serious injury on the roads is a vital part of that. Road safety and road safety education have been high priorities for families and communities for almost a century. According to our UK government, the number of driving fatalities have dropped in the last 50 years, but there's still a lot of work to do. Let's take a look at this.
There's a party going on right here.
A celebration to last throughout the years.
So bring your good times and your laughter too.
We're gonna celebrate your party with you. Come on now.
Celebration. We gon' celebrate
And have a good time.
Celebration. We're gonna celebrate and have a good time. Celebrate good times. Come on!
It's a celebration.
Celebrate good times. Come on!
It's not just about what happens to you physically after you survive a car or road accident. It's also what happens to you mentally and emotionally, and the struggles you have to go through after it. So in this programme, we'll learn more about our roads and hopefully encourage safer behaviour to reduce the number of people killed and injured on our roads every year. Now, if you've had any kind of experience like this, do tell us about it by tweeting us on @ChrissyB or leave a message on our Facebook page, The Chrissy B Show. So today's guests are Tom Thompson, who'll be telling us about his road accident and the impact it had on his life. We'll also be speaking to IAM Director of Policy and Research, Neil Gregg. IAM stands for Institute of Advanced Motorists. Now, Neil will be giving us all the latest stats of road accidents and fatalities here in the UK. And at the end of the show, I'll also be giving you my advice on how to best move on after something traumatic. Now, one of the main causes of fatal driving accidents on the roads can easily be prevented by just wearing your seatbelt. You knew that already, right? But let's take a look at this.
No, I don't always wear a seatbelt. I never wear a seatbelt at short journeys.
28% of drivers aged 18 plus don't always wear their seatbelt.
On short journeys, like if I go to the petrol station near my house or the shop, sometimes I can't be bothered to put it back on because I think it's such a short journey. I'm not going to pick up enough speed to go round the corner to have a bad crash.
Even at slow speeds on roads you know well, with no seatbelt, you can still be seriously injured or killed.
Because I'm a delivery driver, I'll be going from one street to another street, maybe next to each other, so it'd be on and off, on and off, on and off. So I don't feel like I have to wear one all the time.
You are twice as likely to die in a crash if you don't wear a seatbelt.
Sometimes I'm rushing around in my car, I'm going to the supermarket, I'm getting out to grab a few things, I jump back in, hop and get my dry cleaning. I don't really remember to put it on.
During 2007, over 1,400 people were killed while in a car. 487 were not wearing a seatbelt.
A lot of my journeys, or most of my journeys, are just sort of short journeys, short trips. So as such, I don't really feel the need to wear it.
Nearly 300 lives would have been saved if all car occupants had been wearing a seatbelt. Roughly, that's one life a day.
For motorway journeys, I generally would wear a seatbelt because I have a longer time to remember. But for shorter journeys, I usually forget.
It isn't just crashes at high speeds that can cause serious injuries or death.
My name's Richard Cuden. I work for the UK's Transport Research Laboratory, and I specialise in looking at the causes of accidents and the causes of injuries that happen because of road traffic accidents. Seatbelts are a vital part of protecting people from injury in road crashes. People who don't wear seatbelts in the UK today are dying at speeds when they're travelling at 20, 30, perhaps 40 miles an hour, which most people would consider relatively slow.
My name's Dr. Gareth Davies. I'm a consultant in emergency medicine at the Helicopter Emergency Medical Service in London. And my job is to go to simple road traffic accidents that occur every day, but sadly end up in people who are badly injured and sometimes fatally injured.
Seatbelts are really effective safety devices. They work for all sorts of vehicle users and all sorts of impact types, but they're especially effective in frontal impacts. We've recently done some research for the post office where we crashed one of their standard delivery vans travelling at 30 miles per hour into the side of a truck. We deliberately didn't put the seatbelt on the dummy, so the dummy stopped in a vastly reduced stopping distance, experiencing huge forces compared to those he would have experienced if he'd worn a seatbelt and stopped in the larger distance of the van. Because he didn't wear a seatbelt, this was a real person, we would have seen really significant injuries, perhaps even death. We break that crash down into 3 distinct phases. The first one, people often believe they can stop themselves.
But sadly, they have no chance of responding to it. It happens in the blink of an eye, and there is nothing that they can do to prepare themselves or stiffen up for the crash. Literally, in the beat of a heart, the event will be over.
The second stage is when you impact the steering wheel. At that point, you're completely flying free within the vehicle, and that impact is going to hurt. A really important point to remember is that although your car's fitted with an airbag, that airbag is effectively a supplementary restraint. It's designed to work with the seatbelt. It isn't designed to work on its own. If you're not wearing a seatbelt, it will offer perhaps some protection in some crash types, but nothing like the levels you're going to need to prevent serious or life-threatening injury.
It's during this second crash where the patient's head is coming into contact with the windscreen, their chest is coming into contact with the steering wheel, and it's at this stage the patient's beginning to receive their injuries.
The third stage is when that injury can become life-threatening, where you see the internal organs tear away from the structures within the body.
In the chest, the heart and the lungs are coming forward towards the steering wheel, and it's at this stage they're being pierced and torn by the fractured ribs, and the simple impact of the heart stretching forward is literally tearing a hole in the main vessel of the heart, the aorta.
Had the driver we'd just seen been wearing a seatbelt, would have seen a really different outcome. Firstly, he would have been connected to the vehicle really early on. So rather than the vehicle stopping and then him hitting the inside, as the vehicle slowed down, he's connected to the vehicle through his seatbelt, so he slows down with the vehicle over all that time and distance. Now sure, the bits inside him, his internal organs, are also being restrained, but they've got all that extra time and distance to change velocity over, which really significantly reduces the forces and means that we really don't see anything like the injuries at these sorts of speeds for seat-belted people.
For people who don't wear a seatbelt, it's crazy. It's an event that will take their life from them, and by just one simple application, 2 seconds of putting a seatbelt on, that same crash can just result in a bent car and perhaps some bruising to the chest, but they won't lose their lives. And people think it will never happen to them, but sitting here on the helipad, we know today it will happen to someone.
Now, before we move on, road accidents also happen to those who are not inside vehicles but are casually walking on roads without looking. Let's take a look at this.
So beautiful. You know you say that, yeah? Yeah. I'm gonna do it to
The boy who didn't stop, look, and listen. Before his leg was bent backwards, he loved to play football all day. But the boy didn't cross in a safe place, where he could see cars come his way. He then didn't stop, look, and listen. A car hit him at quite a pace. And now he cannot play football, because his leg broke in more than one place. The girl who didn't dress bright in the dark. She always liked to look her best, so didn't wear a nice bright vest or any clothing that was bright when she was out at nearly night. But traffic couldn't see her, see. And now she isn't so trendy. A car drove right into her guts and covered her with bruisey cuts. The boy who didn't look for a safe place to cross. He couldn't be bothered to walk to a place where cars could be seen from a nice open space. So he crossed the road right next to a bend. Now his arm for some while will be struggling to mend. A car cannot dodge what it cannot see, so flatten the boy. Unfortunately, now he can't swim, dress himself, or go-kart, 'cause his arm is all limp and falling apart. Always cross where you can see what's coming.
So different scenarios that you saw, but all very, very important to make sure that you think before you cross the road and make sure you stay safe on the roads. Now, after the break, we'll meet Tom, who'll be talking about his experience after an accident that nearly cost him his life.
Don't forget to subscribe to the Chrissy B Show, always aiming to show you the happier side of life. You can find us on YouTube, Facebook and Twitter.
Welcome back. Now, if you've just joined us, today is all about Global Youth Traffic Safety Month. Now I'd like to welcome onto our show Tom Thompson. Hello, Tom.
Hi.
How are you doing?
Not too bad, not too bad.
Now, this is the first time you're speaking about what happened to you on
It is,
TV.
yeah, it's bringing it back as well, yeah, it is, yeah.
What's made you be so brave to do this today?
It was a long time ago, so it was like early 2000s, mid 2004, something like that. So, well, it'd be nice to let people know, well, what not to do, or what I wish I'd have done after the accident as well.
Okay. So take us back later. Now, because I know it's difficult for you to talk about, but you know, this is for the benefit of the viewers at home, because what we're trying to do through this program today is actually to prevent accidents from happening, and also you know, all the mental health issues that come after an accident as well is difficult to go through. So if we can help someone, a few people, you know, prevent that in the first place, it will be wonderful. So that's, you know, it's great that you've come on to share your experience today. So the accident happened in 2004?
It was around about 2004.
Okay, what happened?
It was between 5 and 6. It was light. There were 3 lanes where traffic, so that there's plenty of room to get round me. There weren't that many cars on that road that day, and I was far over to the left. It was Trinity Road going towards Tooting.
You in a car, cycling?
No, sorry, on a bike.
On a bike, right.
And I was right over by the curb, so I was perfectly all right. Going under an underpass, the wall on the left starts to go into the grounds. It was round about when the wall was down here, so witnesses could see when it happens. Next thing I knew, I was on the floor. I don't know if I was knocked out for a little bit or not, I don't know. But it busted my arm, and I had a pain in the neck.
But did you see anything, or did it happen so fast?
No, I didn't see a thing. She just came out of nowhere. It was like a 4-wheel drive, came out of nowhere and smashed into me. So that the whole side of the car had scratches on it. That the wing mirror was gone, was smashed to pieces. I had massive bruises. The lady did stop, but she stopped about 50 yards down the road. There were 2 witnesses walking along. There was no police involved. They came over to try and help me. She came over. She had a little talk to them. They suddenly disappeared. They walked
Hang on,
off.
she was talking to them while you were on the ground?
No, once I've got onto the curb and what have you, once she got me over to the path.
So she moved you, she helped you move over?
Yeah, so they helped me with the bike and that, and get over to the side of the road. So she was talking to them. Next thing I know, they're gone. And she's helping me get to the hospital. She put my bike in the back of what was left of it, in the back of the car. And every bump, every little stone she went over on that road, so I was in the passenger seat, it hurt like hell, really hurt. But yeah, she took me to St George's Hospital, and that's the last time I saw her. But obviously, you know, the insurance details I got. I dealt with the insurance people without getting anyone else involved.
So no police, nothing, no
There was
witnesses?
no police. I wish there was, because there's only 2 things that could have, you know, she didn't fall asleep, I don't think. There were only 2 things that could have happened. Either 1, she was doing makeup, which I don't think she was, or 2, she was on her mobile phone. And there was CCTV around there, so there was definitely a chance to
What was she saying to you in the car on the way to the hospital?
I can't remember. She was just calming me down, really, I think. Like I say, every slight little bump on the road, was hurting really bad.
Okay.
And it was that harm. So, yeah, it's.
Were you working at the time?
Yes, I was. Yeah, I was
Okay.
coming back from work.
Okay.
At that time.
And then what happened afterwards? After you were in hospital and you came out?
Well, because I had a pain in the neck as well. It's either the C5 or the C6 in the spine at the top there.
Mm-hmm.
So I was having really bad neck pains as well as the arm. I decided to, through her insurance, I liaised with them through the post for the insurance. They gave me money for a new bike and some loss of earnings.
Okay.
Until someone mentioned.
How long were you off work for?
I can't remember. It might have been a couple of weeks or so. Can't remember exactly.
But how did the accident affect you mentally? Were you reliving it
Well,
all
I wish
the
I had
time?
eyes in the back of my head. It's something that couldn't have been. If I go back again and do the same thing again, it's something that I couldn't have. It scares you because that could happen again at any time. My first ever bike accident was just a car door opening up and me hitting the car door. They didn't look in their mirror. It was a parked car and the car door opened up. But this, going back in time, you can't prevent it, obviously. So it's scary because
Did you feel low
that
after
could happen. Oh yeah, very low. Yeah.
How did you move on from it or get past it, or haven't you not?
I just carried on, going to the doctors and what have you, and getting better, and then getting back into work as soon as possible, basically.
So you made sure you didn't sort of stay at home thinking about it and reliving it and everything like that.
Yeah.
Did you ride your bike again after that?
Eventually, yes, I did. When I got a new bike, so.
Yeah. Oh yeah, you said
But the insurance people, someone said to get someone else involved. You know these where there's a claim or whatever, where there's a blame. I got one of I said, okay, I'll do that. Got these people involved, and all of a sudden, my loss of earnings, there was, they stopped coming.
Oh,
so it was, like I say, it was couple of weeks, 2-3 weeks. But when I got them involved, everything went downhill from that.
Okay. Now, Tom, what would you say to the drivers out there who maybe get distracted either by, I don't know, messing around with the radio, putting makeup on their phones? What would you say?
Don't, not even with hands-free kit, because it's taking your concentration away.
Yeah.
So, when you're talking about something, you're on a phone to someone, we all have it. We all have images of what we're talking about or where we are and all that. So it just takes a split second for a kid or someone to, walk out into the middle of the road. So stop it. Don't. You shouldn't use a phone or anything in the car. Just drive normally.
Do you think there's anything maybe that bike riders or motorcyclists can do to also help themselves, like to prevent any accidents?
Cameras,
what do you think?
Because they've got these stupid cameras on the hats, haven't they? Because you can sometimes you get dodgy drivers who have a go at the cyclists. Okay. Yeah. One day, someone's just going to smash the camera off the helmet. But those cameras should be hidden, really. I think, because it's still gonna. The evidence will be there. Yeah. Mind you, if I'd had one, I don't know. I wasn't wearing a hat. I must say that I wasn't wearing a hat, but
helmet. You mean?
Helmet. Yeah. It's in that situation. It should have been a camera on the back of the.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So
did you wear a helmet afterwards?
It was on the phone.
Did you start wearing a helmet afterwards? After
no, I didn't. No, because it's to do with my hair. I like getting a clip.
Are you serious?
So yeah, I am. I'm silly. I know. You should wear a helmet.
Yeah. Okay.
When
so
riding a bike. But I didn't want to squash my quiff basically.
Okay then.
Yeah.
And since then, have you ever been involved in any other accidents, or was that like?
There's very minor ones. Two were in snow. One with my brother-in-law, my sisters. So my brother-in-law at the time driving in snow, and there was a car headlights full beam, and we went down a ditch. And funny enough, the same road years and years later on the back of my brother's motorbike, going down this road down towards the M25, Shepherd's Hill, Dean Hill. It was black ice, and we went over. So yeah.
So it's been a few things.
It's been a few things, yeah. But that
But it hasn't
that one was
stopped
the
you
major
from
one.
getting on the back of the bike again, or
no, you
eventually
get. No, you have to. You have to eventually get back on it. So no, you can't. let that put
Well,
you off.
that's a good
So
thing.
it could have
in
been a
sense
lot worse,
because-
obviously.
Yeah.
It could have been, if that car was any slightly further over, then yeah, it would have been a different story.
All right, Tom, thank you so much for sharing your story with
okay.
us and enlightening our viewers as well
problem.
to be more careful when they're
Thank
driving,
you.
to look out for motorists as well and other people. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Alrighty, so do tell us your views. I mean, if you're a cyclist who's had enough of how you're treated on the roads, or you're someone who thinks that the cyclists and the motorbike riders are the problem, do tell us about it by tweeting us at Chrissy B Show or comment on our Facebook page, The Chrissy B Show. Now, before we head to our break, here's an advert that I'll never forget because it really had a big impact on me. Check this out.
Hi, you.
Hi, how'd it go?
Yeah, it went well. I'm on my way back now, so I'll tell you about it when I get home.
Okay, well, the kids are in bed and dinner's on. James? James? Can you hear me?
You don't have to be in a car to cause a crash. Think. The moment you know they're driving, kill the conversation.
Don't forget to subscribe to The Chrissy B Show, always aiming to show you the happier side of life. You can find us on YouTube, Facebook and Twitter.
Welcome back to today's show, where we're learning all about the importance of road safety in support of Global Youth Traffic Safety Month. Now, did you know that 15 to 16-year-old girls are at most risk of road fatality from being front seat passengers with older boyfriends in the driving seats? Well, neither did I until today, but we've got a very great expert here with us today, Neil Gregg. How are you, Neil?
Very well, thank you.
Now, you are from the organisation called the Institute of, let me get this right, Advanced Motorists. There you go. I got it without looking. So this statistic that you've told us about, why is that? Why is that more likely for 15, 16-year-old girls to be?
Well, basically, it's about young men. Unfortunately, young men are very bad at judgment. They're very bad at, they like to show off.
Yes.
Testosterone, all that kind of thing. They also think they're really good drivers. If you ask a 17-year-old, are you a good driver? They say, yes, I'm the best driver in the world. But of course, they're not. They lack the experience. They haven't done all the driving they need to do. They don't know how to cope with certain traffic conditions. And add that combination of bravado and lack of experience together, and you get the reason why young people are so overrepresented in the accident statistics.
Yeah. Now, with youngsters in general, is it more youngsters that are involved in general in driving accidents and maybe on the roads than older people, or is it like a mix?
Well, basically, there's about 20% of accidents involve a young driver, but there's only 7% of drivers who are young drivers, so they're overrepresented.
Okay.
There's a real problem out there. They drive less, they drive less miles, they don't go out as often as older drivers, but they have more accidents. And as I say, it's that combination of lack of experience but thinking they're good drivers is the problem.
Okay. Now, we're also listening to Tom's story earlier. What did you think about what happened to him and how it could have been prevented?
Well, it underlines, as you say, that there's a tagline that the Department of Transport have used for many years, that drinking and driving wrecks lives. And road accidents do wreck lives. And it lasts for a long time, over 10 years ago in Tom's case, and he's still worrying about the accident. So you forget that it's not just the individuals involved, it's the people who saw it, the families. A lot of the adverts you've shown show the families being informed about the accidents, the police, the emergency services. Everybody's affected by the stress and the worry about road accidents. And one of the things that we've noticed recently in the last 10, 20 years is the growth of victims' charities. Victims got a very raw deal, but now we're seeing better trained police officers, we're seeing better compensation for people, and that's all because of this, the fact that the drinking and driving wrecks lives and affects people.
Okay. Now, what's your actual role at the organisation? What do you do?
Well, I'm in charge of policy and research for the IAM, and we do our own independent research on a wide range of road safety issues. And of course, we're also famous for the IAM Advanced Driving Test, which sort of takes people to that next level in their driving, makes them even better drivers.
Which is great. Everyone needs that, don't we?
Well, but it's a struggle. The problem is that when you pass your test at 17, you're given a full driving licence that's valid till you're 70. Most people have got no claims discount on their insurance. They all think they're great drivers. So it's very difficult to get the message over that you can improve your driving. And it's interesting because in other walks of life, in work, for example, continuing professional development is something we all do. We expect to go and get trained, get extra skills. But when it comes to driving, we think we're brilliant and we don't want to change.
I did actually get my licence when I was 17, and I didn't drive at all for like 20 years, and then I started driving after that. But I didn't have any refresher course. I just went out with my husband to drive. So I was quite nervous, but I was kind of thinking maybe I should do some extra lessons or something just to get back into the swing of things.
That's not unusual, particularly these days when a lot of people are going into higher education. So they may be passing the test when they're 17 or 18, going off to university for 4 or 5 years. Some of them lucky enough to be given a high-powered company car when they're mid-20s, but haven't driven for 4 or 5 years. That's when you do get problems. But the interesting thing is it's not just experience that's important. Age does help. So the more mature you are, your brain will be a bit more caring, a bit more mature about things. Decision making isn't quite so bad. You will actually be a safer driver just by being a bit older, but you still need that experience as well.
And let's talk a bit about cyclists as well, because I have my own experience with that, because my grandfather was actually killed on the back of his bike. This was in Cyprus, it wasn't over here. And there weren't even that many. Even today, there aren't many cars out on the road in Cyprus, but for some reason, the lady was driving too fast. So it had a big impact, obviously, on the whole family. We were there on holiday, actually, and then that happened. But in general, do you think, who do you think, I suppose it's both, everyone has to look out for something, but do you think it's more on the motorists that need to be more careful, or the cyclists?
It is a bit of both, but I think the problem we have here, particularly in London, and it's starting to grow in other parts of England as well, we're seeing a lot more cyclists on the roads, but we don't have the facilities for them really. If you think about it, it is a dangerous mix. As Tom suggested, an underpass, fast traffic right next to a cyclist. So you've got a completely vulnerable cyclist next to someone in 1.5 tons of well-protected 4x4. It's a complete mismatch. If you go to Holland, they don't do that. They have separate cycling facilities and they have a much better cycling record. We've got the situation at the moment where we're encouraging cycling, but we haven't really got the facilities in. We're starting to see more cycle lanes, more superhighways for cyclists, that kind of thing. But at the moment, I think it is quite dangerous to be a cyclist at the moment, because we're asking cyclists to share the road with, 20-ton buses, 1-ton cars, all doing 60 miles per hour. That is really unsafe, and it just needs one person, either the cyclist or the driver, to make the slightest error, and it's a fatality for the cyclist, but not for the person in the car.
What do you think cyclists themselves could do? Because say, they don't have a choice, they need to cycle to work or something like that. What tips would you give cyclists to be more careful?
Well, you can actually get training in cycling. A lot of people jump back on a bike after 20 years. There are courses out there for adults returning to cycling, and I would recommend going and getting some training. We're a training organisation ourselves, obviously, for drivers, but for cyclists as well. Get a refresher. And one of the things that they will teach you, for example, is not to be too close to the left-hand side of the road, to be in the middle of the lane where the drivers can see you. Obviously, to let people pass.
It kind of seems like it's going to be safer if you stay.
It seems counterintuitive, yes, but in actual fact, you want the driver to see you. So if you're too far over to the left, and it's key things like, particularly in London, going down the left-hand side of lorries. I mean, a lot of the fatalities in London have been pedestrians going down the left-hand side of a lorry. The lorry driver can't see you. The lorry driver turns left. And you get these horrible, horrendous crush injuries at junctions. So my tip is to get some extra training. For drivers, I think we need to learn to expect to see a cyclist now. A lot of drivers have been driving for 20, 30 years. They've got used to the fact it's all cars. We're seeing bicycles coming in. We're going to get more of that. Expect to and look out for cyclists.
Okay. Now, in terms of the impact that accidents have on a person's mental health, would you say that's increasing as well? It's more difficult maybe to deal with nowadays?
I think we're learning. We're starting to get the support services. We're starting to get victim support services coming in. If you go to court now, you will pay a fine, you'll get your ban, but you will also pay a victim support surcharge, and that goes directly to victim support charities. It's a fairly recent innovation. So we are seeing more of these charities out there, specialist police officers who go and break the bad news, that kind of thing. This is not a job anyone would want to do, but certainly it's got better. In the past, there was some really insensitive handling of fatalities. People would get the personal effects back with no information about the accident. People want to know what happened. They want closure, and we're starting to get that now. But it still takes an awful long time, and I know a lot of the cycling and pedestrian organisations do complain that perhaps they still aren't taken as seriously as a car occupant who's killed in a fatality as that. But it certainly has got better. But it does last forever, and I've seen examples of insurance claims for over £20 million for lifetime care for young people who've ended up with no use of their arms and legs after a crash at the age of 17 or 18. And that's the kind of, particularly for the insurance industry, that's the kind of catastrophic injury they don't want to get involved in because it's going to keep very big claims for them.
Okay, so obviously the best thing is for everyone to be more careful to prevent anything from happening in the first place, sort of having to deal with all these consequences.
Absolutely. I mean, you know, we try and promote this idea of sharing the road safely, and we're all out there, we're all equal on the road, but it is difficult, and you know, we're trying to sort of get more pedestrians, more cyclists without the facilities first. I think we need to be more investment in the facilities.
Definitely.
If drivers know there's a cycle lane there, if they know it's a shared surface, you know, they will react. We've seen this already in London. If you change the road design, drivers understand that and will slow down and look out for pedestrians. But far too many of our roads are the same as they were in the 1960s, and people are still going far too fast.
Definitely has to change.
Indeed.
All right, Neil, thank you so much for your participation on today's programme. Thank you. All right, guys, so don't go away, because after this quick break, I'll also be sharing my own wisdom on how to move on from any traumatic event. But first, let's watch this advert.
Don't forget to subscribe to the Chrissy B Show, always aiming to show you the happier side of life. You can find us on YouTube, Facebook and Twitter.
Welcome back to Global Youth Traffic Safety Month here on the Chrissy B Show. Today I've learnt more than ever the importance of life and how one careless act can take your life or change it permanently. We've been showing you all types of road safety adverts to remind you just that, thanks to the Think campaign run by the Department for Transport. So now it's time for a few tips of my own on how to move on after a traumatic event. And this could be anything from an accident to losing something or someone you love. So the first point is to make sure that you talk about it. So sometimes when something really bad happens to you, you may feel like hiding yourself away from people and not talking to anyone, but that normally makes matters worse. And there's also people that even kind of push away those that are really close to them, but actually it's those very people that are going to help you, that care about you and want to help you. So don't lose contact with them, don't push people away. If you tend to, you know, isolate yourself, then you will actually feel worse about yourself as well. So it really does help to talk about the incident, to talk about how you feel. And also, if you need to, talking about it could also be to people that have been through the same thing, maybe someone that's been through the same thing and actually recovered and moved on with their life. So you can see that it is possible to live again after a really terrible event. So the second one is don't keep reliving the incident. Now, this is something that's very, very easy to do. And I think I've mentioned on this program before, when this started to happen to me when I lost my father, as I said, the last few days in hospital were very, very difficult. And it wasn't, I can say it wasn't a peaceful death. He didn't just die in his sleep. It was actually very traumatic to watch. And after he died and after the funeral and everything, I kept realizing that I was reliving those moments, like the last hour of his death. It was just going on and on in my mind. And I was finding it really hard to take that out of my mind. And it was all I thought about for a while. So what did I do? I had to kind of tell myself off basically and say, look, you know, he's not going through that now. He's not suffering in that way anymore. So just, you know, put your mind to think about something else. And that's what I started to do. But the thing is, if you keep kind of reliving what happened, it just makes you feel worse. So you can actually force your mind to think about something else. You don't have to keep reliving it because you're not there in that situation anymore. It's not happening anymore. So why make yourself suffer? So make sure when you see this happening, obviously the thoughts are going to come to your mind, things are going to start coming to you, but as soon as you realize what's happening, then you think about something else or go and do something else, just so that you don't keep going through that pain all the time. Number 3 is to try as much as possible to be normal. So try to stick to a normal routine. That could even include like your social activities, even if you don't feel like it. So again, going back to the experience that I had with my father, my mum, she kind of felt guilty for maybe going to a family member's house for dinner or doing normal things, even like maybe going for a drive, going to the shops. Everything seemed like we shouldn't be doing this because, you know, Dad's just died. But then if you think about it, what's the alternative? And this is what I said to her. The alternative was probably just to stay at home and get depressed and feel even worse about the situation. So that's not a good alternative. So it's important to try to get back into a normal routine as soon as possible, if that means going back to work as Tom did, or doing your usual stuff. It's not going to harm you because, you know, I don't think it interferes with the grieving process or the recovery process, because you'll still think about the person or think about the incident, for example, but at least you're going to get back to normal quicker. Now, the 4th point is to make sure that you stick to some sort of routine. So make sure you set yourself a time to wake up in the morning or to go to sleep, and also watch your eating habits as well. Make sure that you're eating properly, and also if you find yourself, for example, staying in bed and not looking after yourself properly, that's not a good thing. So make sure you do try to snap out of it. And if you need help with that, talk to someone. Again, going back to the first point, talk to someone and say, look, I'm having trouble sleeping, or I'm having trouble setting myself a routine. Can you help me? And get that support from your family and friends as well. Number 5 is to take care of your health. So we did just mention this now in the previous point. So this is very, very important. And as I said in an earlier show, taking care of our health seems to come up in most points that we cover here on the show, because it is such an important thing. It changes your mood. If you eat badly, if you don't exercise, it makes you feel worse. So if you're already going through something difficult, if you're already going through something traumatic, and then you don't look after your health as well, it's going to make you feel much, much worse. So at least take care of your health, and that will help you also in your recovery, both mentally and also physically. So to give us some fitness tips, here is the ever reliable Jane Rafter.
Hi everyone, it's Jane here. Welcome to your fitness tips. I'm going to help some of you decide what type of exercise you ought to do, because a lot of people know they need to get fit, and this might apply to you, okay? You might know you want to get fit, but you're not really sure what class to go to or what activity to take up. So what you need to do is analyse your weaknesses and try and attack those, because people tend to say, well, I can't do yoga because I'm not bendy enough. And that's actually backwards thinking. What you should think is, look, I'm really needing to be more flexible. I'm really tight. I've got tight backs of the legs. I'm tight in the back. So I need to go to yoga, because yoga will help you develop your flexibility and increase your range of movement as well. If you're stressed and you're looking to de-stress, I also recommend yoga for that. It's very good for relaxation. If you want to improve your heart and lungs, your cardiovascular stamina, then you need to do an exercise that's going to raise your heart rate. So that could be walking, swimming, cycling, running. If you want to go to a class, try something like Zumba, maybe if you like dancing, or a circuit class if you're not really into dancing. If you ask around either in the gyms or community classes, you should find the class that you want. If you get back pain and you need to tone up and strengthen your core, I would recommend Pilates. It's really, really good. It's the gold standard exercise. You'll really target here, you'll improve posture and improve back pain. So have a think about what it is that you want to achieve, and then try and get to the right class. All right, so good luck with your research and go and get fit.
Thank you very much to Jane. Now, my 6th and final point for today is to be tough. Now, I know right now there are loads of experts out there who would definitely disagree with what I'm about to say, but I'm going to say it anyway because I really believe in what I'm going to say to you right now. Now, I've heard experts saying that you should allow yourself to feel what you feel when you feel it, and just to accept those feelings because you know, it helps in your recovery process. I actually think this is a really dangerous way of thinking and dealing with things. Yes, I know there's a time where, you know, you need to have a good cry if something's happened, but I don't believe that you should just stay wallowing in your pain, or else you could get really, really depressed. So I think it's better to use your head. So if I go back to my example earlier, if I'd allowed myself to feel and accept the feelings that were coming to me when my dad died, I probably still be struggling with those thoughts today. But because I took stock of it and I said, no, I'm not going to keep feeling and being upset about the whole situation, I was able to recover quickly. So I don't think you should just keep allowing all the feelings to come. That's why I was saying earlier, switch your mind to something else. You know, be tough with yourself. Be tough and say, look, this is making me feel worse. It's making me feel bad. I keep thinking about stuff. I keep feeling bad. So why am I going to keep reliving these things? I'm going to be tough on myself, and I'm going to say, okay, get yourself together and let's move on. And I know it sounds really, really harsh, but as I said, there's a time when you're going to cry, there's a time when you feel bad, but then there has to also be a time where you move on with your life and get past that and just start living again, because there's no point being here if you're going to feel, you know, depressed and everything. You don't have to live that way anymore. So make sure you do, be tough, and you can get through it, I'm sure. So I hope today you guys have learned more about road safety, and also the importance of thinking ahead and considering the consequences. And if you need to speak to someone, maybe you don't have anyone to talk to about something that's happened to you, you can talk to me. You can visit the website chrissybshow.tv and send a form from there, and I'll get in touch with you, I promise. But that's all we've got time for today. But if you have a story to tell us, do contact us by filling in the form on the Chrissy B Show website, chrissybshow.tv. And also, if you're doing or have done something for Global Youth Traffic Safety Month, let us know by tweeting us at Chrissy B Show, or comment on our Facebook page, The Chrissy B Show. And if you want to keep in touch with me, you can visit my website, mylifeafterdepression.com. Bye-bye for now, and see you again next time.